ice. We tucked into 2 billion fast food meals last year. And it's not just burgers and chips. You can pick up everything from sandwiches to sushi in nearly every town in Britain. And always in an instant.
We all know that eating too many of these might not be healthy. But let's put aside what's in the food for a moment. How worried should we be about what's in the restaurant? Especially things like bacteria, which if it's there, we can't see.
We expect anywhere selling us food to be clean, though in fact the Food Standards Agency says 12% of restaurants represent a high risk to public health. Even the top restaurants can fall foul of hygiene regulations. So for the fast food joints with thousands of branches across the country, keeping them as clean as they should be is quite a challenge.
What do you think about hygiene in fast food restaurants?
Very, very important.
I watch to see if they wash their hands and stuff, and sometimes they don't. I'm really particular about that.
At least they're large chains, so I imagine they've got fairly strict procedures, which would make me feel rather more comfortable than in a small independent shop.
There's only one way to find out precisely how clean these places are, to test them for ourselves. So we've been all over the country examining some of the biggest names in the business with these chemical cotton buds and some cool bags, so we could send exactly what we found straight to the lab.
We tested for bacteria in McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, Subway and Pret-a-Manger, and went to a branch of each in 5 cities across the UK. In total, we visited 25 restaurants, all on the same day. We swabbed the tables, the trays, and the handles of the trays. And every time we saw a cloth just lying around in a restaurant, we took it, so we could test that too. Then we sent all our samples for analysis at a lab and lined up a former environmental health officer to analyse the results.
Generally, the better companies will respond very carefully to the requirements of cleanliness, and they understand that it's important for food safety to keep a good standard and also to show the public that they mean business.
So what did the lab find at the restaurants we tested? First, the good news. All 5 Pret-a-Mangers we visited were spotless. Our swabs found no bacteria at all. And at Subway, all we found was a tiny and harmless amount of bacteria on one table. Burger King wasn't quite so squeaky clean. 3 branches had bacteria on tables and trays, but again, not at levels anyone would consider alarming. KFC also had low levels of bacteria around the trays in 3 restaurants. At McDonald's, low levels again at 2 branches. But on a table in Bristol, we found the highest level so far, only just within what experts consider acceptable.
You might think that's all pretty encouraging. Some places could be cleaner, but nothing for anyone to get worked up about. Or not yet, anyway. Remember those cloths we came across? What we found on some of them has no place in a public restaurant.
We found cloths in 3 McDonald's. One had no bacteria. Another had a bit more, though within normal levels. But a cloth we found at a McDonald's in London had much higher levels of bacteria. In fact, 42 times what experts consider acceptable.
This is a really dirty cloth. It's a higher bacterial count than really we would expect to see. Shouldn't be left around, and it indicates that they haven't been using sanitizer as frequently as they ought to be.
And that's not even the worst of it. We found a cloth next to the trays at a KFC in Birmingham, and on the cloth we found E. coli. Yes, E. coli. That is finger-licking bad.
E. coli is a particularly nasty bacteria that can be found in raw meat and fecal matter. In a restaurant, you wouldn't expect to find an E. coli count of more than 10. But on this KFC cloth, it was more than 30,000. Even such a high level won't make you ill, but it does raise serious concerns about the cleaning, especially when the total amount of all bacteria on that cloth was more than 300 times the acceptable level.
This is in the premiership of dirty cloths. They may as well be wiping the table with a toilet brush. In fact, I've tested toilet seats and toilet lids and found much cleaner results. We've just got a cloth that's walking around with the members of staff and picking up bacteria as it goes along and depositing them in different places. I'd want to go in and have a talk with them, tell them really that practices have got to change, and then some training carried out.
These bacteria shouldn't be present if staff were following their own procedures on cleaning. But were they in this branch of KFC? We went back there, and though we saw staff wiping lots of tables, we didn't see any of them using the sanitising spray they're supposed to. They just stuck with the cloths. So we sent 2 more of those KFC cloths to the lab. And again, Dr. Ackley was alarmed at what was on them.
The cloths obtained on the second visit still had very high levels of bacteria, including E. coli and Staphylococcus, which indicates that this is a practice that isn't just a one-off.
And the only way that Staphylococcus can get on a cloth is from human contact.
The Staphylococcus on the cloth could have come from a member of staff perhaps picking their nose or coughing onto the cloth, or it could have come from a customer who's just done something disgusting on the table, might be just sneezing all over it, and then it's been wiped over by a cloth.
We showed our footage from KFC to another expert. He specialises in the way fast food chains handle hygiene.
The employees repeatedly cleaning trays without the use of the sanitizer. Also, the trays are by the bin, and so you start to understand why there's a build-up of germs.
KFC has 720 branches in the UK, and some have been slammed for poor hygiene before. In November 2006, they were fined £24,000 because staff at the Bridgend branch breached hygiene regulations. And this August, a branch in Lincolnshire closed for 3 days after an inspection by Environmental Health.
There's a problem with food safety culture in some of these restaurants. I'm sure that they have in place policies and procedures that are designed to prevent this happening. They need to make sure they implement them. At present, this isn't happening.
How did they find E. coli? Was it not cooked enough? Or?
We found E. coli in a cloth. It was a cloth that was...
That means they wiped something down and then wiped something else down and then wiped something else down. Isn't that gross?
1 cloth with E. coli could mean anything. 3 is harder to explain. The bacteria we found in all the places we tested isn't enough to make you seriously ill. But it does make you wonder if all the restaurants in all the big-name chains are as clean as they should be.
Well, no need to ask Pret a Manger or Subway their response to this because they had nothing to explain. Burger King reiterate the levels of bacteria we found there aren't unsafe, but say in the light of our results, they will be encouraging all their restaurants to maintain even higher standards of cleanliness. And they've asked the one that had the highest levels to reinforce their cleaning procedures.
McDonald's point out their food is served on packaging or in tray liners in their trays where no significant results were found. They expect the highest levels of cleanliness and have thorough procedures and staff training for the use of cloths, which are used for a maximum of 30 minutes. And they insist in conjunction with a spray surface sanitizer, though at that London branch where we found the cloths, we saw them cleaning without spray.
And as for KFC, well, they say any breach of their strict hygiene standards is unacceptable, and as a result of our report they've taken immediate action with this restaurant. They say it's clear the correct procedures had not been followed by staff, and they've already retrained the employees there, and in addition they've instructed every one of their other 720 stores to do the same. But they're confident this was an isolated case and that branch now meets their usual high standards.
Thank you for all of your emails and your letters this week. Keep them coming in. You can send your stories through to us at bbc.co.uk/watchdog.
Or you can call us on 0208 535 1000.
Or you can write to us.
The address